Are we live? I think we're live. Okay. What is up, everyone? This is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to or watching the Powercast. And today we will be recapping a very special episode of Power, and that is Power Book 2 Ghost Season 4, Episode 10, the finale and the final episode of Ghost. So this is the very last episode. It all ends here, after this. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do next. Of course, we still have Raising Canaan season of, is it 4? And then also we have Force season 3 coming up. But yeah, as for Ghost, that's it. Finito. I do expect we'll see Tariq again, but we'll talk about that. But I am joined today by Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How are you doing, Richard?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
What's up, indeed? And we are also joined by Miss Dana Abercrombie. How are you doing, Dana? And what's that on your hat?
It is my Davis dollars.
Oh, wow.
That Powers gave us, along with the finale of the poster.
Wow. So yeah, we have to start out by saying shout outs to stars. Like they're sending gifts. They sent you a poster and they sent you Davis dollars. Like
Davis dollars because out of the
financials. Well, in Davis we trust. In Davis we trust. So you're in good hands with Davis dollars. You're very wealthy now. So yeah. But I have a lot to say about Davis later on as well. But that's really cool. Shout outs to stars. I wish I had that dollar. Like that's real cool. But yeah, we are here, and I know everybody's waiting for our reactions to this finale. It was a big deal. I've been reading up on Twitter, seeing what everybody's saying. And yeah, I can't wait to see what kind of comments we get on this video. And I can't wait to hear from both Dana Abercrombie and Richard Bailey, with their takeaways today, because there is a lot to talk about. There's a lot of hype, there's a lot of speculation. There's a phone call that we need to unpack later on. But yeah, let's get right into the takeaways. Let's not delay it too much. So Dana, I've seen your notebook already. I see it's all full up and everything. So when you're ready, there you go. There's the notebook. So hit us with your takeaways when you're ready.
I'm like, oh, these are my last takeaways for the show ever. Rest in peace to book 4. What are we? 4, 2, 3, 2. Sorry. So first of all, rest in peace to them. I initially was very upset, and I stated my upsetment on Twitter, and I think everybody and their mama came after me. And so I rewatched it again and reanalyzed. And I can admit when I was wrong. And I think that I was wrong on some parts. You have to, what this episode did for me was we kept waiting, we kept seeing Apex Predator, Apex Predator. Where is the Apex Predator? Hence, is the Apex Predator in the room with us? And it's not. And that's because an Apex Predator is not supposed to be in the room. And that goes all the way back to Tariq's conversation with Anoma's brother. The definition of the apex predator is someone who's on the top of the food chain. Okay? He got his family away from New York State. Who knows where they may end up going? Uncle Tommy and them, we don't know. Maybe we'll never see Tasha and Yasmin again, ever. We do not know. But they're away for right now, which means the only person who could gun for Tariq would be only Tariq. They don't know about his family. They don't know about anything else. He's running an organization, and yes, I did hate the line was like a ghost, but it is now like a ghost. And if you look at what this episode, to me, what it did was he accomplished everything that his father kind of couldn't do. You have the situationship with Tommy. And to me, I initially was very upset. You could see my tweets. I got cursed out from here to London. About my original thoughts was he did Brayden dirty, and the fact that from season 1 Brayden was his ride or die, right? And even with the previous episode, it showed how Brayden saved him again. And to me, it was like, the guy is always there for you. Why are you going to cut him off? And then it was like, shouldn't have Ghost cut off Tommy? Because Tommy was screwing up. Tommy was messing up with the powder and all in his noses. That's kind of why they called him Little Tommy. It wasn't because, oh, you white and you hanging around this black kid. He was starting to screw up. And he started screwing up from kind of like season 1. But he kept holding on to Tariq. I got you, Tariq. I got your back no matter what. But he screwed up. And a lot of this season was a lot of screw-upation with him. And what was interesting for this episode, unless I must have missed it, this was the one time-ish from like after the Coke was introduced, he didn't do Coke, from my understanding, unless he was still riding high off the Coke that he did in the last episode. But the point is, yay, Brayden, I'm proud of you. Point is this. They're not breaking up their friendship. It's more of, you can no longer, we're not business partners. He's learning to keep business and life separate, which is the conversation that he gave to Noma's brother, who I was like, you should have just been the lead in this episode. Not even this episode, in this whole season, probably going back to when they introduced Noma, he should have been right there, because his presence and everything that he was trying to teach Noma, I felt would have been more effective for this season. But he did say this. If you watched his episode, the whole thing was like, he works on facts. He doesn't work on emotion. He's not there saying, oh my goodness, my sister is dead. My niece is dead. Oh my goodness, we have to enact revenge. It was like, okay, told you what to do. You didn't follow it. You're dead. Rest in peace. I got to go on with the rest of my business. I have to go on doing me. And that is what Tariq is doing now with Brayden. He is keeping that emotion. He said, no connections. There was a whole thing where he said, no. Well, basically, it was just saying that there's no connections, there's no emotion within this whole situation. Which is why, because yes, Brayden has been screwing up, but I'm starting to wonder, if he didn't screw up, in order to protect Brayden, will he still have broken up with him? In that terms of, we can no longer be business partners. That's like kind of the thing that I wonder, because what he says is, all he gave him is, he has one more chance left, and then he's out, and that's it. And then Brayden says, it's not about the money. I did this to build something on my own with my brother. And then he says, you gotta work smarter. And he said, are you in or you out? He said, I'm in. This, sorry, to me, is the lesson that Tommy should have been given by Ghost. I love you. I knew you since you was a kid, but we can't do this anymore. We have to separate. Because the back and the forth that Ghost was doing with Tommy, with the kill, I'm going to kill you one day, I'm not going to kill you the next day. You're looking over your shoulder at your own people. So as much as I was upset with how they separated them, I understand it more. So thank you for cursing me out on the Twitters about that. So that to me was one of the big main points, because their friendship was the foundation of this series. And it's still there. See, they just can no longer be business partners. He's saying, I'm giving you something to do. Here's some money. And even though he's saying, look, it's not about money for me. It was always about building something with my brother. Remember, he sacrificed his entire family to be with him. So with that being said, I think that they can repair again. Because if you look at Ghost and Tommy, they knew each other for what? Over 20 years. But if you look at Brayden and Tariq, what's it been? Less than 4, because they're still somehow in college. And nobody's talking about going to grad school, except for Effie. So they're still within that 4-year period. We don't know what timeline is doing what, but they're still within that 4-year period. And so when you're at the beginning of a friendship or relationship, there's going to be more of that rocky start. But, who's to say that friendship can't last 20 more years, 40 years, or however long that they're both alive. So I appreciate that. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about, obviously, has to deal with Kane. Kane's situation, the death of his mother, he took very hard. And he stated at the beginning, after realizing, and the brother's talking to him, the sister talking to him, that, mom was really, she was the one, she died for me. Right? And she sacrificed everything for me. And then he said, well, if only I listened to her, she would have might still been alive. So with him, it seems like he's getting the payback because of what Noma did to his mother. But he's also, in a way, he's still going to do the drug business, but he's no longer having that family ties. Well, he can't no longer. He sacrificed himself, but he has to separate himself from his family because he was the one who they had, he told him to go get arrested. It'll be okay. He has to take out Noma, and now he's on the run. And so, in a way, he is continuing to fulfill his father's role by, being a leader, but more importantly, protecting his family. And that also was what Monet was trying to do. In a weird, twisted way, she just didn't know how to, I don't think she knew how to process that. And she had a problem with letting go. So this is what we're having with him. He is able to let go of the family for the betterment of the family. And I think if he was going to die in a hail of bullets, he would have been okay with that. But he didn't. He was, well, we don't know how, but he escaped. And that's when I think Effie probably found him, was there in the corner making sure he was okay, put him in the bed, called Dr. Lee, making sure he was all right. And this kind of, to just branch off quickly about Effie, this made me so sad because I truly think the writers destroyed Effie. But yes, it can be realistic when you have someone who's so much promise and so much hopes and dreams. They do something stupid for a man. And she gave him all the money. And what did she get in return? A kiss on the forehead. I'm like, that's it? He's maybe just take like a little bit of money? Like, I'll give you half? But she gave the whole bag for a kiss on the head, and I understand, and I'm going to pay you back. And now she's stuck doing the whole thing all over again. Oh, I'll make it back. So I guess I'll make this the third point to make this short because I can go off on a tangent. To me, it's weird because you see the cyclical nature of what they're going through, especially when they're in the drug business, how they can't seem to escape. Drew allowed himself to escape by being completely out of the country, which was cool. But if you look back at the end scene, they're all standing right back at the school, doing the same job that they had before, course perfect instead of course correct, taking care of the colleges, the university, running the underground club, and doing some Fight Club thing as well. So that there you can argue, one, that is the cyclical nature of the business, but at the same time, you can make the argument that this is a show, and respectfully, I didn't see anyone grow. And you can argue, oh, at the end, Tariq became the apex predator because the definition of apex predator is being at the top of the food chain. Okay, but you're still doing the same thing. So it's just, to me, I don't feel that there was much growth aside from Tariq knowing to be a ghost. I'm my dad now, for I'm actually the name that he called himself. I'm a ghost. But there really wasn't any, for me, growth in character, growth in Tariq, the person, the drug dealer, the student. There were so many different sides that Tariq was playing that overall there wasn't that much growth to it. There wasn't an impact of you're in college now. Okay, you lost your money. Why are you still in school? You could have made a different choice. At least if you're going to stay in college, show me how your school education impacts or makes you learn from the drug business. And I'm sorry, looking back at it, a scene with you in the college reading a philosophy book doesn't really cut it. Because I'm not seeing how that implies with the direct conflict that you have right now. You can say, okay, it's all evil bad, and then you're like, well, you can apply it to Noma, but what is that doing to you and your character? That, to me, it felt like it wasn't personal. You're just, well, Noma is Socrates and Cain, clearly he's Aristotle. Okay, but again, where's that growth? And so that, for me, overall was the disappointment for this season. And I will stop talking now because we're at the 15-minute mark. But there's more to say about that. So I'll hush.
Oh yeah, great takeaways. I'm glad you mentioned that, about the no growth, because that's a big part of my takeaways too. But yeah, I completely agree with you there. But yeah, I'll get to that in a little bit. But excellent takeaways. And yeah, we'll definitely talk more on that a bit later. But Richard, when you're ready, hit us with your takeaways.
First and foremost, outstanding takeaways by Dana. I look forward to hearing what you have to say, Gary. Let me start by saying my personal opinion of the finale. I thought it was entertaining, and I thought it was pretty good. I don't think it was amazing. I don't think it was incredible, but I thought it was pretty good. And I say pretty good because it pretty much was the finale of the Tejada storyline. Looking at this show, obviously, this show has always been about the Tejada family. Tariq has always been a side character. And this season, like I said last week, it feels like it really was heavily focused on the Tejadas. When you're getting flashbacks of Monet as a young teen mother and all the stuff happening with her, all of that, all the time they spent telling that story, they didn't really focus too much on what Tariq was doing. And it's understood, obviously Tariq has relationships with everybody, in the Tejada family on some level. So he still is interacting with the characters. He's still a part of the show. But when you think about this being a continuation of Tariq's storyline, I just think this entire show was about the Tejadas. It was never really about Tariq, only to a smaller extent. And obviously, we got that with the trailer that we're going to discuss later on regarding the phone call that happened at the very end in the end credits. But I'll get into that later. So let me get to my takeaways. I only have 2 takeaways for this particular because I felt like this episode is very straightforward as far as focusing on what had to happen. So let me go to the Tejada family first. Obviously, they wanted to get revenge on Noma because of what happened last week. I like that you saw Cain get very emotional and he acknowledges that he played a role and maybe it was his fault that, Monet got taken out. And then you saw him try to orchestrate the plan with his siblings, which is, I think, very important because one thing we knew about is that when they had this plan to go after Noma, they didn't really have Cain involved in this. And that was something that Monet said she didn't want him getting involved. She actually didn't want him being there when they tried to take her out, but things didn't work out that way. So I'm glad that it showed that finally with communication, because communication is key when you have a plan to do something, you need to be communicating with those around you as to what you're trying to do. So I think that was great that they finally came together and was able to orchestrate something. Now, I will say, it was not part of the plan for Diana to kill Anya, but I will say this, and I will pat myself on the back because I predicted that was going to happen last week when they had the trailer, and then Tariq asked Diana, D, why did you do that? I said, yeah, because Diana probably killed Anya. And that's exactly what happened in this episode because she wanted Noma to feel pain because she took Monet away from them. So it made sense to go with that direction. They've also told us that Diana is a character that she feels a bit lost now, whether she's not really focused on school, but she also is kind of wants to carry up the family mantle and go into the drug game. So very interesting. I like how they utilize that character. But to go to the point that Dana made, the very good point Dana made about there being no growth in the show, I do agree. I will say there has been some growth for the Tejada family, the kids. Diana, for example, because this is a character that prior to this, she wanted to focus on school. Now, I believe she is basically taking over in Monet's place. Obviously, she doesn't have product to sell quite yet, but I feel like if they were to pursue any type of storyline with her in the future, it's going to be about her basically being the one to replace her mom and take up the family business. As for Drew, we saw that by the end of this episode, he obviously did help Tariq take down Carter, which I'll get into, which was important. But he did tell Diana at the end of this episode he's out the game, and because of what happened with Kane having to go on the run, and because of them losing their mom, he felt it was important to pursue his passion, which is to be an artist. So he is going to be going to Paris to pursue that fellowship opportunity. So I kind of feel like that character is gone away from the show. If Power was to do a spinoff, I'm not expecting to see him come back. Diana, possibly, yeah, I guess we can see. But Drew, no. And I'm fine with that because I was one of the people that said I wanted them to get rid of this character. So glad he got a happy ending, I guess. Yes, that's good. As for Kane, like I mentioned, he did eventually kill Noma. And I do want to say the scene of them going to the hangar and them orchestrating this plan to take out Noma. After Kane killed Noma, point blank range, and he had the cold line about she was nothing, Monet was everything. I kind of felt like when he had that shootout with the cops, I thought to myself, no, wait a minute. Are they going to do what they did with Kanan in the other show where Kanan had to shoot out with the cops? I'm glad they didn't go in that direction. You know, he somehow found a way to escape. But I do agree with what Dana said. You know, it is unfortunate that Effie was involved. She gave up all her money to save Kane. And of course, Kane says, I'll pay you back. Well, as a viewer, I don't think we're ever going to see that because it doesn't sound like Woody is signed on for another show, unless, of course, that changes in the future. But yeah, so he gets away. He escapes. He did what he did for his mom. He was able to restore her name, redeem what happened to her. So I'll be curious to see what happens to that character. Obviously, he left. He's no longer in New York. So if they do a show, maybe it could be about him trying to reestablish himself, whether he wants to continue doing the drug game, which again, he's very good at that type of stuff. So I will be very curious to see what happens with that situation. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, like I said before, this show really was about the Tejada family. More than anything else, it focused on them a lot with the storylines throughout every season. It was really focused on them. So I think you can say it was a good finale from that standpoint of focusing on them. Now, let's get into my second takeaway, which is Tariq St. Patrick, the ghost in the machine. Let me start by saying I am the real ghost in the machine because I'm going to expose some of the issues I have with what they did with Tariq this entire season, this episode. Now, obviously, he had the plan that he orchestrated to take out Carter, and they wanted to expose Carter because they couldn't kill him because that would be a far worse outcome for everybody involved. So I like how he had, once again, he had Effie and Brayden help him. They went to the house to investigate his files. And of course, they find the ballistics paperwork on Kamal Tate, and they used that to basically expose that Carter killed Tate. And let me just say this. We had a discussion last week where we said it would be great if they somehow connected to explain how Carter was, if he was the one that got his wife killed. I still think that would have been an excellent angle for them to take. They were right there on the tip of that when they were having the conversation. I was thinking to myself, are they going to go in that direction? But to put it all on Kamal Tate, it's like, all right, whatever. It's fine. The only thing I didn't like is that we didn't get to see a reaction from Rashard Tate because I kind of feel like he knew something sounds a little off about this situation. And I would have think as a viewer, because I have a brother myself, if someone was to take out my brother, I want to have a reaction to that. So as a viewer, I was hoping to see a reaction. Obviously that didn't work out because of other people filming other stuff. It is what it is. But yes, that's how they took out Carter, and the fact that they also grouped in Nico, and he also was the one to help take out. I'm glad we got a resolution to that because I didn't know what they were doing with Nico in the previous episode because he was still working with Carter, talking to Noma. So I'm glad that he also stepped up and was the one to arrest and take this guy out. So no more Carter, unless they decide to have a Power spinoff where Carter is in jail and he's trying to get out, which no, we're not going to do that. But yeah, very interesting. But let's get back to my boy Tariq St. Patrick. All right. So this entire episode, he's working with the Tejadas to try to take out Noma and Carter. And obviously, the whole thing about Anya getting killed, he didn't like that because that was not part of the plan. Everyone is still acting on their own motives as to how they do certain stuff. But for the most part, things do work out. And then in the end, Tariq is able to clear his name. They're able to erase the footage with Drew's help. And pretty much he does broker a deal with Noma's brother to have the business running while he is a ghost. Now, once again, I do think what Dana said about Apex Predator, it makes sense, right? For Tariq been telling us the entire time, from the minute he had the blow up with Ghosts, I'm better than you, Dad. Okay, that's great. We saw that he got a couple of hits in on Michael Ealy in this episode. Obviously, Michael Ealy is tied up, so that's why the hits look a little bit more powerful. But come on now, the brother is obviously, his strong suit is to be a thinker and try to orchestrate things. I get that. But what I will say is this. Obviously, this particular show, Ghost, is basically to show you a little bit about Tariq, what's happening with Tariq, not to really focus on where Tariq is going as a character yet, because we still don't have any answers. And the way that they concluded some of the storylines in this particular show, it doesn't feel like it's over for a lot of these characters. But I will say this, if I was Gianni, shout out to Gianni. He had the great interview that he did with Dana. I understand why he no longer wants to play the character. And I do agree with a lot of the points that Dana made, because they want to show you that Tariq is not like his father. Because Ghost always had Tommy around. It makes sense why he would separate himself from Brayden. But my issue is that last season, they told us that Brayden is a character that has the ability to run his own operation. And the thing is that he got away with that completely this season because he was focused on building with Tariq. So if they were to bring Brayden back as a character, I would like to see him do his own thing outside of Tariq, but I don't feel like that's going to happen now because I have no idea what they're doing. But I just feel like as a character, there was potential for him to do more. Obviously, this season, they focused on him getting involved with the product, taking the drugs, and now that made him, go a little bit more crazy. I get all that, but it feels like there's more they could have did with that character. With Effie's character, there's more they could have did with her because you found out about her mom, the fact that she still wants to pursue school. There's still so many questions about a lot of stuff. And then all the bodies of people getting killed throughout the entire season, I find it funny how there was no follow-up to any of that stuff. They said, oh, well, that person's dead. Okay. Felicia, obviously, right? Because she was important to the storyline. That's Carter's former workmate. I get that, but I just find it funny how all that stuff moved to the side. No consequences whatsoever from Brayden killing that Steve, the drug dealer. Very interesting. All right. But again, they wanted to get to the end of the season, end of the show. And obviously Tariq's story is not over. It's not over yet. So it is what it is. But pretty much, I will say more about this call later on. But overall, I thought this was a good finale and a good fitting in for the Tejadas storyline. All right. For Tariq's storyline, whatever. It's okay. But obviously there's a lot more to tell with him. I don't know how much more Michael Rainey Jr. is going to be involved with this particular franchise. Obviously, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, overall, I think it was an okay finale. But if I'm a Power fan and I was watching the original Power from the very beginning, where they're still playing Big Rich Town, I'm expecting this show to end with something that will make it come full circle, really full circle. The Apex Predator thing that Dana said makes sense. But I was expecting a little bit more. And no, let me just say this right now. I'm okay with Omari not showing up in the finale, but that's totally fine. But I just feel like a lot of storylines still didn't feel complete. So I would have liked to have seen what would have happened if this show would have continued maybe for another season or two, because the original Power was 6 seasons. I feel like 4 seasons is okay, but they probably could have had one more to really explain a few other things. But it is what it is. But overall, good finale, and we'll see what happens from here.
Oh yeah, excellent takeaways, and I do want to give you props for calling the Anya death last week because you definitely did call that happening, and that was like one of my highlights in this episode. So shouts to that, and yeah, great, excellent takeaways and observations as usual. And yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. So I'm gonna go ahead and hop right into my takeaways now, and then we can talk about it after. So firstly, I want to say like the mental battle, the cat and mouse game between Tariq and Carter was fun to watch. If you see that poster over there called Death Note, that is one of my favorite animes, right? And this episode kind of reminded me of that because Death Note is like it's a series where the good and the bad guy are trying to one up each other continuously. And this episode felt very much like that because Tariq was trying to get something on Carter, and Carter was trying to use what he has on Tariq. And then once they actually let Carter go, they kind of negotiated a deal, where because Effie and Brayden went away and looked into his computer and all that stuff, and they found some evidence tying him to Rashad's Tate's murder and all that. So once they had that, and they kind of made a deal to let him go, as long as the other footage doesn't come out. Um, so yeah, what was I gonna say? Yeah, once they did that, and then also like it went on to Carter. Yeah, he went to tamper with the evidence and all that stuff. So it's like things like that. It's like that back and forth game of them trying to outsmart each other and outdo each other. I enjoyed that part of it, just seeing the mental chess game. I knew Tariq was going to win, and this is the character's strength. Like Richard said, Tariq is a thinker. He's good at orchestrating a plan, and he's very good in that role. Do I see him like when it comes to the street physical side? I don't see him as a successor to Tommy and Ghost quite yet. But when it comes to strategy, he surpasses his father absolutely. Like especially with how it ends. Um, but I must say one thing that separates Tariq from his father, and that is the fact that Ghost he ultimately wanted to leave the game. He wanted to figure out a way out of the game and also to protect his family from it. Now, of course, they both grew up differently, so I understand that because Ghost, he had no other options. He grew up in the streets, like that was just the life he was kind of born into. He didn't have a choice, really. Well, he did go to college, but like it was the life he kind of found himself trapped in, I guess. And I don't think it was his first choice. Tariq actually chose this life repeatedly. He killed his father and chose this life for himself. So that is a key difference, I guess. But it's just my issue with it is for how this ends, and for Tariq's ending on this show. I just feel like, to get to that spot, that top spot, it takes a lot of pain and it takes a lot of trauma. And I feel like he hasn't grown, like Dana said, he hasn't really shown that he's taken anything from this experience. Like what have you learned? What are you going to take into, your future decision making? It's like he just comes off as like invincible at this point. It's like, what it takes so much to get that spot, to earn that title of the kingpin of New York. It takes a lot. Like there's going to be a lot of death. There's going to be a lot of tragedy. Like it's going to take its toll on your mental health. You're going to be looking over your shoulder. Like you're not going to be able to sleep at night. You have to sleep next to your gun. Like there's so many things that go into like being that top guy. Like um, and I just feel like we haven't seen that from Tariq. It's just like, he's got that plot armor almost of just breezing through it almost. And I understand he is a very good thinker, tactician and everything, but it's like, I don't know, it's just I can't fully buy into it, into that ending for him. And like Richard said, the Tahada one was a lot better. I'm gonna get to Kane in a sec, but yeah, the outcome for Tariq was just, it just feels a little bit forced, like they just want to steer him into a certain position for what's coming next. Maybe, I don't know. Um, but yeah, that's what I'll say about it. Like I don't feel the growth from the character, by the end of the episode. It was great seeing him outsmart Carter, but yeah, I just wasn't feeling the growth. I wasn't feeling how perfectly it ended for him, kind of thing. Like it just, yeah, it was a little too clean. It was a little too clean for Tariq's ending. So yeah, that's my first takeaway. And yeah, so Kane, this is one character I feel like got a great ending in the show. He stood on business and avenged his mother. And unlike Tariq, you can clearly feel his losses, his wins and losses. Like you can feel he's been through things, and you could feel the trauma and pain that he's carrying. And you know, um, he, like, at the end, he really feels like a man with no country. He's kind of lost it all. Like he has to go on the run. Of course, he's got the money from Effie, but he has to go on the run, and he can't really see his family anymore, like, because he's gonna risk his freedom, if he's just hovering around too much and stuff. So I feel like, you feel what it took for him. You feel what this whole experience took out of him, and I like that about his ending. And of course, it's very open ended, so we could see the character again, which is great. And then after, because after what happened to Monet, he knew he had to kill Nomar. So that was great to watch, with him at the airport and being the one to kill Nomar. And somehow he got the shouts to movie bot, because I saw his gif on Twitter. But he basically got the Harry Potter invisibility cloak and disappeared after after being shot by the cops. Like he just straight up vanished. um so yeah, he somehow got free. And then of course we see, Effie, she, I guess she helped him get patched up. She got a doctor or something. And then she ends up giving him the tuition money that she was going to use to go to California. And yeah, like even that, you could see he didn't really want to take that money, but he just has no other options at this point. It's like it's too hot for him to stay in New York, because once you get into a shootout with a cop, like, or that's a big deal. Like you murdered someone right in front of the cops under their nose. Like, they're not letting that go. That's personal at that point. So he had to leave. He had no choice. And yeah, you just really feel it in that moment. Like you just feel the weight of what he's been through, and then having to, take Effie's opportunity from her, you know, for the sake of him being able to sustain himself, on the run. I think that was a really good ending, right there, and it does show the bond between him and Effie. Um, and yeah, I just feel like that was great. And Woody McCain, shouts to him, because I know he's been saying his goodbyes on Twitter, but I'm sure we can all agree that we do want to see him again, at some point in the future, depending on what Stars decides to do. We would love to see that character in some capacity, whether it's in his own show or, you know, coming back to whatever show they do. We do want to see Kane, and he did feel like the main character to me in this season, just because his growth was like the best in my opinion. Um, so yeah, that's the second takeaway. My third takeaway, I'm just gonna go through like the resolution of some of the characters. Just so with Diana, I feel like her standing at the head of the table. Um, Shouts to the bloodline. But yeah, standing at the head of the table like that, I think that's supposed to signify that she is, basically going to be the successor to Monet. And I do have to point out the fact that, a while ago she didn't want nothing to do with the family no more. And I understand that was around the time she was pregnant, so she had a good reason to get out of the game. But before that, she was never really heavily involved. She was just kind of, around and supporting the family and stuff, but she was never super involved in the day-to-day running of the family organization. She was just kind of playing a supporting role, and she would get mixed up in certain issues that the family has. So, it is a little bit of a stretch to expect her to like take on this head of the family role and like, become the new Monet and, start dealing all the drugs and climbing the ladder of the criminal underworld and all this stuff. Like, it's a bit like, it's a bit of a stretch, but just I feel like the symbolism there is what they were alluding to, that she is now the head of the family, and the fact that she made such a bold move in this episode of killing Anya. Like, I think that kind of plays into it as well. It shows you that she does have that darker side to her, because let's break that down, because in that moment she could have just killed Noma. She could have just like shot at Noma, but her reasoning for killing Anya was, I want her to feel what I feel like, and that is, super dark. No matter how you feel about it, that is very dark. The fact that she wanted to keep Noma alive longer so that she could feel the pain of losing a daughter. Like, and I understand it, because she lost her baby, so I get it. There's that on top of losing her mother as well. So she's been dealing with a lot of pain this season. So I get where that comes from. But yeah, I guess that kind of shows she does have that darker side. I'm curious to see how she would pull it off, in becoming that head of the table, without Drew and without Kane. Like, how would she do that? I guess one option she has is getting with Tariq. That might be something that happens. Maybe they get together and become a power couple at some point. Who knows? But yeah, as for Brayden, I agree with your initial tweet, Dana. Brayden got done dirty, like, absolutely. So I don't know what critiques you got from the people, but I agree. Like, he got done very dirty, considering his loyalty to Tariq these past 4 seasons. I mean, this guy was gonna go to prison for Tariq. At one point, he was ready to eat that charge and everything. I think he did eat the charge. I can't remember how he got out of that, but yeah, like, his loyalty, to Tariq, it wasn't even a question. Of course, they had the disagreements and fights over the seasons, but he was always his number two. Like, he was his day one, essentially. Um, and yeah, I feel like Tariq, the way Tariq was acting, is kind of, it's a bit of a dick move, a little bit. Like, now I know he has been using, he's been sniffing a bit of that coke, and he did put Tariq in some questionable situations with the drug dealer and everything like that. But I mean, that it's the cost of doing business. It's part of the game. If you chose that life, these things happen. And like Dana was saying, Tommy Egan used to do a lot of coke with his mother as well. And Ghost never really came down on him hard for that. As long as Tommy could get the job done, that's what it was. And with Brayden, I mean, you could argue he's helped Tariq in a lot of situations. He helped him in a big way with this whole Carter thing. He came through for him with that. He came through for him last week when he was trying to kill Carter. It was Tariq that messed it up. And yeah, like, Braden's been there. So I feel like, you should have been running things alongside him, like, to tell him, no, you're gonna work under me. Like, I don't know, it's a bit of a slap in the face right there. But yeah, that's just me. I want to know how other people feel like that, you know. And I also feel like Brayden got done dirty with the storytelling this season because it's like a lot of his story kind of just got rushed and swept under the rug. We didn't really see anything with Ellie again, you know, so I guess we assumed that that's over. We didn't see anything with his sister again, um, you know, so it's just he was just kind of there. I mean, well, he wasn't just kind of there, you know, he was helping Tariq, but it's like he didn't really have a lot going on for himself and he got no kind of resolution with his struggles, I guess. So it will be a shame if we never see the character again. Because yeah, I just feel like we didn't get any like, you know, anything conclusive with Brayden. Same with Effie too, you know. Now Effie, I would argue she was definitely more interesting than Brayden in this season. Like she, you know, her involvement with Kane, there was that element. She was also pivotal in the whole Russians thing. You know, she did a lot. She did a lot of hacking and all that stuff. So she, I would say her supporting role was definitely done a lot better than Brayden. But yeah, she also kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit in terms of it being conclusive. Like it's like okay, so now she's just dealing drugs still. You know, it's like okay, back to square one. You know, basically, we're back to season one of Ghost, essentially. You know, so um, and Carter got what he deserved. You know, I enjoyed watching that. I love that Nico caught him in the act. You know, the fact that he basically gave up Nico as a way to, you know, get out of the situation. Um, and Nico actually heard all of that, you know, so he knew in that moment that's what confirmed his suspicions that Carter was backstabbing and, you know, disloyal. So I love how that played out. And of course, Nico replaces him, which is interesting. But yeah, Carter, somebody said in this episode the line about the worst thing for a dirty cop is to be put in prison. So yeah, I do think that's the perfect punishment for him. That's better than just killing him because now he has to rot in prison knowing that, you know, he got outsmarted and he can't abuse his power as a cop and, you know, and yeah, I think that's the perfect punishment for him. Um, I agree with Rich. I wish we got to know more about the wife and what actually happened. I wish they could have tied it into the story in like a cool way, but it is what it is. They had way too many storylines going on, so it is what it is. And then Noma, I have to I have to actually give props to Noma's actress in this. I think she did a phenomenal job in this episode in particular of playing the villain. You know, I would argue throughout the earlier parts of the season she was kind of, you know, just falling by the wayside. She wasn't really doing much. She wasn't a powerful villain at all. But in this episode in particular, she did what she had to do in terms of playing the villain. And you know, I give her props, especially with the Anya death scene. Her reactions, perfect. Like her reactions just made that scene. Like you know how she screamed and you know cried over her body and everything. Like so, Noma was great, and of course, we all wanted to see her die. You know that was what everybody was saying going into this. That bitch needs to die. You know that was what was being said. So we got that moment. She got died. She got betrayed by her brother as well. So you know that was interesting. You know her whole family kind of turned on her. But yeah, like as I said, that moment when Anya died, that's my favorite moment of this episode. Like that's what made me like, okay, yeah, this episode is it's all right. Like it's like Rich said, it's good. It wasn't phenomenal. It wasn't perfect. It you know, it was good. As a finale, it was just good, you know. And that moment where Anya died, that's when it got real for me. Like it's like, okay, yeah, that death scene I enjoyed, especially leading up to it, where Tariq was running game on Anya, like he was tricking her basically, like you know, because obviously he was trying to get Noma's location and all that stuff for the Tahadas. But yeah, that was a great scene. And um, what else do I have here? Oh yeah, I'm glad Davis got his license back. I'm also glad he didn't die, because he's quickly becoming like one of my favorite characters in the show. So I'm glad that he lives on and he can continue to contribute to the show and whatever they do next. It will be interesting for him possibly to interact with some of the other characters, like if they bring Two Bit back or if they bring Tommy back to New York or whatever. Like seeing those interactions would be fun. So yeah, it's cool to kind of have him as he's basically like another Tate now, I guess, like where he can keep being a reoccurring character, um, and yeah, just stepping into that supporting role for Tariq. So yeah, that's cool. And then, yeah, the only other thing, and this is going to lead right into our discussions. So, I'll just open up with my thoughts on this and then we can go straight to the discussion. I do think it was Tommy on the phone because I know there's a lot of discussion about that. Because, for me, I feel like Tariq throwing that word out, that family word, him using that should be a sacred word that is used for both Tasha and Tommy, because all throughout original Power, Tommy was his uncle, and so essentially him and Tasha are the two families, people, the two members in his family he has left. Essentially, I know a lot of people are saying it could be Kane, um, and I just feel like him and Kane didn't really have that relationship. Like they were at odds with each other a lot of the time, and I know you could say that he almost had a baby with Diana, so like that it's almost like they are family, him and the Tejada. But I just feel like just the way he phrased things, I just feel like he wouldn't talk to Kane in that manner. So I do feel like it was Tommy, and they've been teasing a lot of Tariq going to Chicago. Like when they did that award show, the People Award show, Michael Rainey Jr. was in, I think he was in Tommy's apartment, and I think in an interview to or on his podcast it might have been, but Tariq was saying he was saying like, oh, I think we should all go to Chicago. We should all, he was saying the whole cast needs to go to Chicago for something, So I feel like that's the direction they're going. I do feel like it's a great marketing tactic as well for it to be Tommy, because we know Force is coming, so they want us to watch Force, obviously, to see if we see Tariq. And that's why they also left it so open and didn't actually reveal that it was Tommy, because they want us to have that curiosity so that we keep talking about it and keep marketing Force, basically. That's why it was so open, because I don't know how much it costs, but I feel like they could have easily organized a Tommy appearance if they wanted to, but they didn't. They chose to keep it open because they knew we were going to have a conversation like this of who is on that phone. But I do think the most likely candidate is Tommy. But who knows? Like they could be tricking us. It could be somebody else. So I'm very curious to see what you two think. So we'll go right into the discussion now. I know Dana had something to say about that. So Dana, the first question is, who was on that phone?
I get the first question of the last show ever. Okay, here's the thing with me, and you have to understand, I went through a wave of emotions, and then I got yelled at. And then I thought about it and was like, oh, okay, fine, you're right. My initial thoughts, yes, everybody's like, oh my God, it's Tommy. My thing was, I went back to the conversation with Tommy and Tariq when it was in season, what was it? I don't know which season it was. I think it was this season. But remember when they met? 3, 4. That's a 4. Okay, 4. So remember when they met and he was saying, I'm not here to fight your battles. You have to learn how to do this on your own. The thing is, we don't know the timeline of when that phone call took place. We just knew that it was after Tariq set everything up. He's no longer on the school campus. That looked like it was someone's park. I don't know if it was Central. I don't know if it was Prospect, but that was a park in New York City with little hot dog vendors. Very New York. Point I'm making is this. Because we don't know the timeline of how long that passed, we don't know what anyone's situationship is. But we do know with Tariq, his business is already established. His conversations with Noma's brother was already made. Davis has his license. Everyone is put in place, and they know what they're doing in their business. So when Tommy said back in season 4 during that episode, you have to do this on your own. I can't do this for you. You have to essentially become your own person and solve your own problems. He did. Technically, Noma's dead. Monet's dead. He's beholden to no one. He has everything in place. So one of the things also, Tommy has been keeping it seems to me, Tommy's the kind of person where I'll always look out for you, even though you may never see me. So I'll have, I don't know, Pookie from the block that's my connect. Just make sure that you're okay and you're all right. So therefore he knows, hey, I can call Tariq because right now he's already established and he's not dealing with any of the other drama in New York and saying, I need help right now. Please come. At the same time, my brain is going, why would you call a child to help you with your business? And then that's what it's like, this is a show, Dana. This is how we get things going, Dana. The whole season was basically saying, you're a child, you're a child. Remember the brother. Why would I take this from a child? You know, that's the reason he is a child, but he's learning and he's growing and he's surpassed a lot of adults that way. So that is the argument for Tommy, but my heart and my spirit was confused and conflicted because remember, he always said to Diana, even after the miscarriage, I'm here for you. We're family. I'm here for you. And what is the last thing that we saw with Diana? Standing at the bloodline head of the table, clearly the bloodline, because she's in the bloodline. At the head. Who was clearly at the head of the table? Not Roman Reigns, but Monet. So who is to say she's lost and confused, which I didn't like that, but whatever. Go be lost and confused. You really wanted to be out of the game, and now all of a sudden I'm a part of the game. And she was like, we gotta do this for the business. So again, remember cyclical nature. She's now her mother, but with no one on her own. Look, I got into trouble. I need your help. Bring in Tariq. Because it didn't give any information in the conversation. Because I took notes of that too. I was like, oh, there's information. All she said was, I ain't heard from you in a minute. Yeah, I do. What's going on? I tell them to bring the smoke and we'll lay them out. So it's a group thing. And then it says simple. I mean, come on, we're family for life. Send me the details and I'll be there. I'm on my way. So yes, we could argue it's Diana, but logistically thinking show-wise, blessings to both. But a Tariq Diana show, I don't want to see that. Blessings. I don't. You running around confused. I don't want that. Blessings though. And then I went to Kane. And I was cursed out thoroughly about my theory about Kane. And it was like they genuinely hate each other. Kane, from day one, he saw him with his eyeballs and he was like, I hate that man and I'm going to hate that man to the day I die. And either they may work together, but I still hate that man to the day I die. So I don't necessarily see Kane calling Tariq, even though I think he would call Tariq because he can't call Drew. Drew's in Paris, living his best life, doing art. He's escaped. He's done. He has to cover. I'm done. Diana, I know that she's, that's his sister, but Diana is too. She don't know what she wants. There was nothing concrete about it. So maybe it could have been a call from Kane, but y'all keep telling me they hate each other too much for that to happen. I personally would love a Kane and Tariq show. That's just me being selfish. But then I'm going to go back to my last option was this. Because of the timelines, we don't know anything. But we do know this about Power Force. Season 3 is the last season, right? And then what did Justice Sakura says? This is not the end. We're going to continue, but it's not going to be in Chicago, right? So whoever called, I need your help. We'll bring the smoke. I don't know the people that Tariq has as his back, his gunners. But who's to say that this even takes place during season 3 or 4? This could be a setup for the Tommy and Tariq show. Because there's no timeline. So just letting you know, hey, we're doing something, we're cooking over here. It's in the pot boiling. We'll get to it eventually because we don't know anything about shooting dates. I didn't hear anything about shooting. I don't know about locations. All we know is that it's not going to be in Chicago anymore. But Joseph Sakura was very adamant, we will continue. And then what happened at the very end? It said, power never ends. That's their version, the Marvel version of, Iron Man will continue in Doctor Doom. That's their equivalent. So anytime you see power never ends, that means, hey, we've been cooking. We got more things for you. So my answer, which was very elongated, I apologize, would be that it's the Tommy and Tariq show. And I don't know who else is going to be involved. I hope it's not. The brother walked away, so I just hope it's Tommy and Tariq. And what's his name? The dude, maybe Jannard. Not Diamond. Was it Diamond? Could be. But the point is, it's the Tom and Tariq show. So then I'm done. So I'm in rant. But that's my answer, which was long and convoluted, to say I quit. In terms of y'all won, I done got my behind beat on Twitter. It's Tommy.
Elon Musk handle that.
One last theory, and this also goes to a larger point that I want to make a point about, which I don't know. What happens if it's Tasha? Because Tasha did an interview with the Today Show. So, throwing it out there, which may be nothing, but she did do an interview.
Interesting. So Tasha would have got back in the game in that case.
I mean, do you want me to read you the quote? Because she was quoting.
Well, what's the quote? What did she say?
Okay. She did the interview with Today.com, not Today Show, but Today.com, and they was asking everybody their opinions of what had happened with the finale, and also what their thoughts. And so basically, what she said was this. Sorry, I'm trying to get it. Okay, so it's about okay, sorry, I got it. Okay, so everybody was upset about, okay, sorry, I'm a mess. This is what happens when we do this like this. Okay, so she says this, that if it was in terms of a spinoff, she would have loved to be people to know what she did the entire time when she was at Wixsec. What was her life like? What was it going and working on that job with the dude who touched her? And then also, if there was to be a spinoff, her establishing, going back into the drug business in a completely new town. What happens is it's suburbia. And so that's what she was saying. Now, obviously, I don't think that it's going to be her that he called, but it would be interesting to give her a spinoff to see, like, she calls herself the Queen Pen. And, Power overall needs to be, headlined by more women. We do have Rick Rock in the other one, but that's technically not her show. But it is her show. But still, you know what I mean? Like, it's okay to have more women to lead the series. Like we had with Monet. You can make an argument of whether or not she was good, but yeah. So that would be interesting. So food for fodder. I don't know how you guys would like that, but that's essentially what she did say.
Interesting. Yeah, it would be like interesting if like if as more spin-offs like to Power, and they don't exactly have to put the Power name on it, but if like they did stuff that was like other genres, like if they did like a domestic kind of drama showing like what Tasha was going through during Witsec and stuff, like more grounded kind of story, that could be interesting to explore. I don't know. And maybe there's some secrets that she has that she was doing behind the scenes that we didn't see in the show. She could have had a whole relationship or something, for all we know. So yeah, that's interesting. But Richard, getting to you. So the original question was who was on the phone, but feel free to chime in on anything else because I know we kind of diverted onto other topics. So
Well, first and foremost, Kane was not on the phone because stars, I hope you're listening. I need to see. I'm looking forward to seeing a Kane and Little Dirk spinoff called Power Turned Up. Because yeah, Kane could potentially meet up with his cousin, and then that's how he escapes. Because they never said where he went; they just said he's no longer in New York. To go to the point about Tasha, very interesting because again, they never said where she was getting moved to. They just said you need to get out of New York. So they definitely can explore the opportunity of bringing her back. I don't know if it would be her own individual show. I kind of feel like she would probably be a part of the show, another show about Tariq or something like that. I have no idea. But to answer the question specifically, yeah, I do think it's Tommy. What the point that Dana made is actually the same point I was going to make because I remember the conversation that Tommy had with Tariq, and it was season 3, and he basically was saying that yeah, Tariq has his own wars. He doesn't have soldiers, and he needs to focus on that. Now, here's an interesting dynamic. If we recall what happened in Force season 2, next season, a lot of stuff is going to happen with Tommy in that show because obviously he's going to find out that Jannard and his girl set him up, and he is going to take out Jannard. Once he does that, he's going to be in a very bad place with Diamond. So Tommy may find himself with no allies, and this is why I think it would make sense for somebody to help him. Now, it doesn't make sense for him to ask Tariq to do this, considering their last conversation on this particular show. But again, we don't know the passage of time because, like Dana said, some time has obviously passed. When and see, they're very slick about how they shot that because it didn't say months later or the next week, next day or whatever. It didn't say anything. It's just like you could tell there's probably been a little passage of time because Tariq mentions the comment, haven't seen you in a while. So the point about it being Diana, I think that's a possibility as well because they are forever family because they had a kid together that unfortunately the kid did not get a chance to, didn't get a chance to make it. So I could see him doing what he can to protect her, doing what he can to make sure, because again, now that he's running that operation, I think it makes sense that he's probably going to get her involved in that if she wants to be involved. So that's a possibility. But the Tommy thing, we're gonna have to wait and see. Like you said, Gary, this is a marketing strategy to get you to watch Force to see what happens. And they know what they're doing because, when the original Power ended, they were very clear to tell us these are the other Power spinoffs coming. This here is very vague because it didn't say this show was coming. It just said Power never ends. So very interesting strategy. And they are also very aware of the critiques about Force as well. So they definitely want you to watch the show. We know that Gary Lennon is working on multiple projects. He is the one that came back to fix this show, and he's also working on the Power Origin show. He's working on multiple things. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to connect all of this. But I will close by saying this, and you will laugh when I make this comment. I look forward to seeing the Power Miami show starring Tommy, Tariq, and the returning Omari Hardwick as Ghost. So stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, wow.
I just wanted to insert as a piggyback to Richard. I did an interview with Gary Lennon returning. Yay. So check that out. He has a lot of things in store. And he did state that, they read the comments. They're on the Twitter. And they know what's going on, and they're back to fix it. And they promised. Now, again, we all make promises. I don't know until I see things. That there's going to be the biggest, most epic season 3 ever.
Yep.
And that there's going to be a lot of surprises. And the headline was like, "We're back, baby." So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm looking forward to it.
Let me add this last point. I am looking forward to it, but I will say this. There is no guarantee or obligation that we will ever see Omari return. But I will say this. From the start of the Power Show, the original Power Show, it has been about the friendship between Tommy and Ghost. So if he were to return, I'm pretty sure Joseph Sakura is the one that would get him to make an appearance on his show. That's all I'm saying. But we'll see what happens. But I look forward to seeing what happens in Force season 3, because this whole thing with Tariq definitely is an advertisement for that, even though they don't want to tell you that. But I'm pretty sure we'll see what happens after Razor Kanan. There'll probably be a trailer about Force, the upcoming season of Force, and then we'll learn more from there.
And just to just piggyback off of that again, sorry, Michael Rainey Jr. did an interview with people. Everyone gets an interview but me, whatever. Even Michael Rainey Jr. admits he is totally not sure what the finale means for Tariq. Fine, but okay. I was kind of confused when I read that. I was like, who the hell is this dude talking to? How did you get my number? How did you got so many new people already? Bro, everybody is against you. Then he says, I'm still like, who was he talking to? I don't know. Whether or not, now this is the question about, is it Tommy? Michael said, it could be a possibility. I mean, they're family. And then he says that I would love to see Tariq back on the screen. However that happens, whether it's a little baby picture, an Origins, I'm happy to bring Tariq to the screen for people to see. And he stated, we got Origins coming. There's a lot of things that's in our universe. Our universe will never end. And then power never ends. So, there you go.
Oh, he was definitely working the fans with that response.
That is straight out of the 50 Cent's book of trolling with those comments. So, yep.
And
go ahead.
Can I make something else that I noticed? I'm sorry if I'm talking too much. Be like, Dana, shut up. What I liked about this series overall was you have to look at how Ghost operated. He operated for his time. Granted, I don't know when technology was technologying, but the way you couldn't have computer hackers and things like, I know they had computers and stuff, but you know what I mean? Like, technology is so advanced and so part of our lives that Ghost, when he was coming up, didn't have that. And it's not to say, so therefore, you had to go out there and beat with your hands and your feet and shoot people. And yes, that happened with Tariq as well. But I think that with the kind of way how technology is used and the way how he handles people and the way that it allows you to be strategic as well, not saying that the past people wasn't strategic, but I'm just saying it created a different kind of kingpin, a different kind of drug dealer because of that. And so he can literally be in the shadows and have everything work out. There's different ways how you can do operations where you never see my face. We don't never communicate. There's no beepers. There's no pagers. You don't even have to call each other. Right? So I do feel that in a way, he did become that apex predator. It's just not the way how his father did it. And that makes it even better because he's an apex predator for the times that he's in now. And it reminded me of Power Force. Remember the nephew? Or was it the thing was the nephew, was like, hey, guess what? I can do everything on TikTok. And this dance means Buy me 50 kilos of drugs and drop it off at Dwayne Reed, and I'll come and pick it up later. So to me, that's kind of what I like.
Yeah, you're right. The advancement of technology definitely presents new opportunities and new ways for Tariq to be Ghost. Because that's why Ghost was Ghost, because like he was the guy who just shows up out of nowhere, you know. But now, you know, with the technology Tariq has, he can do a better job with it, and especially with the team he has, because he has Effie at his disposal. He has
Wait, and
what
Nico.
was the girl? Yeah,
Ghost
Nico.
never had Nico. Never had the
Yeah,
NYPD with him. So
yeah. And he had that private investigator chick, I forgot her name, that he was using earlier in the season.
the
The
Asian
eight,
person, yes,
yeah.
who dressed real good. The fashion budget for this was very good. His makeup was on point. And you notice Noma's suit, even with all that blood, never got a smidge of blood on her or dirt.
Oh yeah,
Good suit.
they couldn't mess up the outfit.
That was a good suit.
Yeah. Um but yeah, great takes. I forgot what I was gonna say, but yeah, I think like with Tariq, like I guess the way it ended, like they were alluding to the fact that he could be anywhere basically now. Like he doesn't have to stay in New York, like he could be anywhere and the organization can run itself. That's kind of what they were alluding to. So he is like essentially a ghost in the machine because it's like he can just pop up anywhere now. So, and I guess that gives them the flexibility of, you know, bringing him back for cameos. If they don't do the whole Tommy and Tariq show, they could still bring him back, you know, if they want to. But yeah, like great thoughts overall on that. So the next question I had, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to also bring up anything you want to in a little bit. But next question I had is, you know, what was your favorite moment from this season? You know, and if you want to, you could say your favorite moment from this episode in particular, and then also from the entire season if you want to. It's up to you. But yeah, I guess I'll set it off in terms of moments. It is a hard one to think about because you know I see your faces, I see the clocks ticking and everything, like the cogs turning in your heads. It is hard to think about like what the best moment is. So you know, of course, I already said my favorite moment from this episode, which was Anya's death. Like I feel like it was a big moment. You know, throughout the whole season, I was waiting for more deaths because it is the final season, and I felt like there's too many characters. The stories are getting repetitive, so somebody needs to die, and we got that in the last two episodes. So yeah, I would say in this episode it was definitely Anya's death because I feel like that just changed the tone of the episode like completely. It got serious like at that point. And then I guess like my other moment would be I'm just thinking quickly, making sure there's nothing else. But yeah, I think I would have to give it to Kane's monologue about Monet. You know, him choosing Monet over Noma. Um, you know, and the things he said. You know, he kind of shed a light on his past and the things he's been through, and the reason you know why he's a mother's boy. You know, because that was like the whole thing. His theme for this season was you know he's a mama's boy and he's kind of tied to Monet and he'll never break free and be his own man. That was like the whole theme of it. But then, you know, in that moment where his back was against the wall and he had to choose, like, okay, we're married now, are you gonna be with me and run everything, or are you gonna choose your mother in this moment? And he, you know, he chose his mother shortly before she got killed, you know, and yeah, just that monologue and him opening up and he kind of unlocked a new side of the character that we didn't know when he, you know, talked about, you know, getting molested and stuff, and Monet being the one that was there for him. So I think that would be probably my second favorite moment of the season. Um, but yeah, Yeah, that's it for me. So who should I go to next? Who should I think I go to Dana all the time first. So I feel like I'm bullying her. So I'll go to you first, Mr. Richard Bailey Jr.
All right, so I'm a warn right now. I have a controversial answer for this. Let me start by saying this. In my opinion, while I enjoyed the acting this season, I didn't feel as though, for me personally, there was as many outstanding moments like with season 3. Seeing Sax get killed, that to me was a highlight for this entire show, especially for season 3. Seeing Lorenzo get taken out. I mean, all the stuff that happened last season, I think it was just I think those were some better moments. But if I do have to choose a moment from this season, 1000% is Monet in her the last of Monet, how they played the Hail Mary song as she took out all of these people. And then eventually went to her demise by getting taken out by Noma. I think that was a very well done scene. You felt the emotion, and you felt as a viewer, you wanted to see her get revenge because they had been building that whole confrontation between Noma and Monet for the entire season. So I kind of feel like when it reached the boiling point, they did not disappoint. We know Monet was going to do whatever she needed to do for her kids, especially for Kane. So I would think by default, that is my favorite moment of the season. But if I was to compare and say, did I enjoy a lot of moments from this season? I think they were just okay. It's just there have been moments throughout this entire series that I think were far better. The Sax thing specifically, though, no one expected that. All right, that was like, whoa, they actually did that. And then the brother finishes off the job as well with himself. I mean, I think that was a big moment. I go back to that and I remember Method Man's look, and then Tariq very shocked, like, oh, I can't believe that happened. It's just like there were moments throughout this entire series that I think were far better. But for this season, I think obviously it's Monet. That's just my opinion. That's me personally. But I'll be very curious to hear what Dana has to say.
Yeah, Dana.
Well, for me, it's very simple. One of the things that I love is my dinner scenes. So my Rackety's dinner scene, which was to me that was Oscar worthy, was when everybody's secrets came out. Zeke was the whole thing with Zeke, Lorenzo just losing it at the table. Diana's just a mess. I would have just added some more knives to that because that'd have been amazing for me. To see everyone attack each other with like some knives. I'm like, what's going on? But it's my dinner scene. It was my very first dinner scene when I was waiting for everybody to find out what happened. And so for me, that is my top moment from this episode. I would have to also go with Gary. I think the actress who played Noma acted her that scene with all she did was scream. All she did was, baby, I'm so sorry. And then boom, boom, and then they did like the silent scream, and then they just let her scream. And then when like Anya's like, and but then when she died, and she's just standing there screaming at the body, that was amazing. And it also, remember, we finally got our innocent. She technically was an innocent because she didn't partake in anything. And in fact, she was angry at everybody. Remember, her last words to Tariq is, I don't want to be like her. And I definitely don't want to be like you. So she was innocent in all of this situation. Remember, she was originally used as a bargaining tool. And she still was used as a bargaining tool. And then she was killed. And she wasn't killed because she did anything wrong. She was killed as payback to what happened to Diana. Which you can make the argument, isn't that kind of how Raina died? Raina died as a payback to Tariq. From my understanding, it's been years. But I don't think she died directly because she did anything wrong. She died because she existed. And that's when Tariq goes into that mindset. Anybody that I know or speak to, and have that connection, they're gonna be innocent in this. They're gonna still be taken out. And you've seen the trail of broken families, but for me, that scene was just amazing. And as you said before, I wish that Noma lasted longer to feel that pain. This is kind of why I wish that this wasn't technically the finale. Like parts of this episode should have been in other episodes. What happened if we had Anya murdered right after Diana lost her baby and got out of the hospital, and after she killed Felicia, and then found out like, oh no, this is what happened with him. I don't know, but for me, and then you would have to kill the mother earlier. What would that have been like? Because Kane was going through it when Noma died. That scene when he was on the floor, tied up, trying to get to his mother, and she's saying, "My baby's my baby's," and he's tied up, but he gets freed at like the very end when she's already dead. What would that whole grief process been like? Had it been, we had 3 more episodes, or Anya dying, and then Noma going through that, and then the brother going, "I told you you're too close. You don't listen to me." That kind of thing. Sorry for the accents. I'm terrible. But I just wish that we had more of that. But for my favorite moments, it had to be the dinner scene and Noma basically screaming her face off, because that was a good scene. And the suit again, no blood, never got dirty. It's a good suit.
Oh yeah, definitely. The fashion is on point in this show. But yeah, you went all the way back to the OG dinner scene, and that was definitely one of the best scenes in this entire, Ghost series for sure. The original dinner scene. But what did you think of the dinner scene at the wedding, like on the wedding episode? Like, did that live up to it? Because there was a lot of like
No,
funny things
it
said
was
in that.
good.
Yeah.
It was good. Definitely a lot of slick moments, but for me, that first dinner scene was just more raw, because everything was flying. With this one, it was more like subtle jabs, like, I know I'm talking about you, like, watch your mouth. But no one went over there and said everything. It was like, oh, you marrying her, oh, you old bitch, that kind of thing. But I liked the original dinner scene because everything was flying. They was just telling everybody business, and everybody was in shock and in anger and everything else. So for me, I like that. But this one, I thought it was fun. It was cute. I like it. They kept it a little bit more demure, a little cutesy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Um, so yeah, I do want everybody in the comments to chime in on that one as well. Let us know your favorite moments of the season. And the final question I have is like, what do you like? What are your expectations now for a new spin-off? So if a new spin-off is announced next week, or whenever, um, what are your expectations? What would you like to see in a new spin-off? Would you like it to be Tariq and Tommy together, or would you like it to be Kane? Would you like it to be Diana? Like, what would you like to see in the next evolution or the next iteration of a Power series? And I'm talking about after, this show would come after Force season 3, and it would be set in the modern Power universe, because we already know that we're going to get Origins. But what would you expect from a new modern Power spin-off series? So I'll go to you first, Dana, this time. Like, what's your expectations? I think you said you want Tommy and Tariq, right?
Blessings, but no, not really. Tariq's already established. Tommy's going through his own thing. Like, yay! I honestly want Kane, because we spent this whole Power situation with the Tejadas, so we already know his background. We know his story. We know what he's been through, and we know where he's at today. So therefore, we can have this spinoff of him literally having to break away from everyone and starting things on his own. He's the leader that he really wanted to be. So that's what I wanted. And I still feel that in a way he's still trying to prove his father by saying, I should have been the one in command and not Drew. So to me, that's what I would have wanted. And the brother, and I don't even see like the brother and sister, maybe the sister, but definitely not Drew, even making a cameo, because he said, I am done. He left the country. He's like, I love you. And remember, Kane even said to both of them, he said, I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be your brother. Which, that could have easily, that was too a very, you know what? I think that I might have liked that one part more than Noma screaming. Because that's something that, even though we felt that obviously they loved each other as much as they were trying to kill each other, that was so raw and honest to come from him. Like, I'm proud of you, because no one said that to them. I'm proud of you, and I'm proud to be your brother. So to me, that was the main standout for this episode. But to see him make it on his own, and to prove himself right, and also he owes Effie. Pay back Effie so she can please be done with this. I'm tired. Effie's tired.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people would love to see something focused on Kane. I would I'd be interested. Now my cop out answer, of course, is I want Ghost back. I want another Ghost show, Ghost and Tariq and Tommy. But that's my cop out answer. I think it's at this point it's probably a bit unrealistic, just because if they haven't brought him back yet, are they ever going to do it? To give a more realistic answer, I mean, it's hard for me to think exactly what I want, but what I see happening is, a continuation of Tariq and Tommy's story, perhaps in a new city. Um, and yeah, just, I mean, see, I want it to be in New York just because of all the history. All the history's there. Diana's there. There's a lot there. But I feel like if it's a new evolution of power, it needs to be a new city, in my opinion. And Miami is a good choice. There is some history in Miami. Ghost wanted to move to Miami. He wanted to set up a new club there, so it makes sense to be either Miami or LA. So, and I mean, it's not like the characters have to be permanently stationed in whatever city there, because like we said with Tariq, he's a ghost. Like his business is self-sustaining at this point, so it's like he could go back and forth to New York. There could still be scenes in New York, and then he goes to work on things with Tommy in Miami, or whatever. So they could skip to different locations. It doesn't have to be fully centered in one city, I guess. But what I would want from it is more of a progression of. I want to see more progression of Tariq's character. I want to see him without the plot armor a little bit. I want to see them kind of break him down, and I want to see the toll that being the kingpin takes on him. Like, I want to see his back against the wall. I want him to really experience what it's like to be, the head dude in charge, in the drug game, and for him to continue to learn from Uncle Tommy, because Tommy's been there, he's done that. If he's in Miami, he's going to be looking to take over Miami. So there's a lot that Tariq could help with from a supporting role, because the two characters that would actually work well together. Because if you think about it, Tommy, he's a doer. He's all about the action. He shows up and gets it popping essentially. Whereas Tariq is the thinker. So the two characters kind of bounce off of each other really well, and I think they could learn from each other really well, because that's one thing Ghost was trying to do with Tommy. He wanted him to be more strategic and think more instead of acting without thinking. That was basically their whole dynamic. So Tariq could really be the one to help Tommy get that side of things, like where he becomes a thinker. I mean, he's already developing that in Force a little bit, but I really feel like seeing him work with Tariq would help a lot, and then in exchange, Tommy would also help Tariq, with the physical activity and all that stuff, like So I think seeing those two characters would be good. I do want to see Tariq and Diana get together. But I want there to be some friction though. Like, I don't want it to be like just instantly they're back together. I want Diana to possibly have a new guy, a new boyfriend or something, like, and she's kind of in the game with this new guy. and Tariq kind of, maybe he has a reason to visit Diana or something, or maybe she needs to get products from him. Maybe something falls through and she needs to, she calls him for a favor, like, look, I need some products. Can you help me? And then maybe this guy is on the side hating a little bit, and then there's some kind of drama there. Like I don't want it to be easy, them getting back together. I want there to be some friction, but I do want them to explore that, because I think it would be cool, a cool succession of the Ghost and Tasha dynamic, to see Tariq kind of get with Diana eventually, not right away, but eventually. And yeah, I do want to see more from 2-Bit. I want to see him make a comeback too, especially if Tommy is in the show. I feel he made a few cameos in Ghost, but I want to see him be more of a long-term character. So that's something I would love to see as well. He could be working alongside Tommy with what he's doing. So if Tommy does settle in Miami or something, he could be part of his organization. Maybe Diamond is part of the organization. Who knows? And yeah, I think that's all I can really think of. But I'd be very interested to see what they do with a Tariq and Tommy focused show. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for things to do. They could bring Kane back into the mix from time to time. Maybe Kane becomes a permanent character in there also, and it's Tariq, Tommy, and Kane. Yeah, there's a lot they could do. They have a lot of history. There's a lot of characters in the mix. You got Davis in the background. You got Tate. So yeah, that's my idea of it currently. But Richard, what's your thoughts? Like, what's your expectations from a new series?
Well, I think you and Dana brought up a lot of really good points. Let me start by saying this. Force introduced us to the Dahlia drug. From what we understand, that drug is only in Chicago. So I would love to see them pull that drug out of Chicago and into another location to see how it impacts that particular market, whether it's Miami or somewhere else, or even California, because Tommy, I'm pretty sure when he leaves Chicago, obviously he has the formula. His brother, if he reconciles with his brother, they can work together and they can have that product that they can sell outside of Chicago. So I want to see what they're going to do with that. I think Diamond as a character, we saw him evolve greatly last season in Force. And now you see how vicious he can be when pushed to his limits, when he killed his parole officer. So I kind of feel like that character, I would like to see where they're going with that character. And I don't know if he goes beyond the next season of Force. My guess is that he can. But yes, I think that would be quite interesting to see where they take that character, because his dark side is very, very brutal. So there's opportunity right there. As for the comment that you made about Tariq, and this is just my idea, I think the point that you made about Tariq not really feeling loss, obviously, yes, he did lose his child with Diana, but I agree he needs to feel a lot more grief, I feel, to truly evolve as a character. So this is just my opinion. However, if it does happen, I will be contacting Stars. I would love to see them have a show where if you decide to have Tasha start up another business, say that things go awry with that business and she gets killed, and Tariq has to find out who took out his mom. Because the thing is, Tariq made a decision at the end of this episode where he said, for this entire show, he had an option whether to go to school or stay in the game. And even when he had the conversation with Tommy in season 3, Tommy said, you're either all in or all out. Okay. He made a decision at the end of this episode where he told Tasha, I'm going to get you and Yaz out of here, but I'm going to stay and do what I'm doing. But again, the truth of the matter is, it is very difficult to have both of these things and just be completely successful, because eventually it catches up with you. It happened with Ghost. All right. So what I'm saying is that he made that decision when, for this entire show, he was telling us he was trying to get back to his family, trying to reunite with his family. It kind of, in a way, for me, feels very similar to Breaking Bad, where Walter White said he was doing this stuff for his family, but he was doing it for himself, and he revealed that at the last in the final episode to his wife. So what I would say is, because Tariq is choosing the game over the family, I feel like something bad has happened to the family, right? And then that would be quite an interesting story for him to find out who did this and who was responsible for it. And he would obviously grow as a character, because he's going to have some regret that he wasn't there to protect his mom when she needed his help. So I think that would be an interesting path that they could go in the future if they decide to do that. And to piggyback with your idea, Gary, about Diana and Tariq, would it be quite interesting if Diana's new love interest is the one that does kill Tasha? Then you have the tension with Tariq and Diana once again, because Tariq obviously he had an opportunity to take out Diana in this season. He didn't do it when he found that she was pregnant with his kid. They just completely avoided that plan altogether. So I kind of feel like that there is an opportunity to explore this stuff if they decide to, but we'll see what happens. And the last point that I will make, I don't know if they're going to offer Woody McClain a bag to come back as Kane. In my opinion, he was clearly the most interesting character on the show. Very versatile as a character. And you saw when he was dressing up as these alter egos, plus he was funny with some jokes that he said, all those Brayden jokes. This guy is an excellent actor. So they could definitely offer him some opportunity to come back. But yeah, like I made the joke earlier, but I was dead serious. I would like to see him have a show with Little Dirk, because I think it's hilarious that Little Dirk was in 2 episodes and he got more screen time than Rashard Tate did. Obviously, scheduling conflicts. You know, we know that Lorenz Tate is working on other stuff, but I laughed when I saw those jokes online because they are 100% accurate. Little Dirk, they made him in this episode where he got involved shooting people up. When you think about it, it makes sense for Kane to go somewhere with him because he has to get out of New York City. So I would not be surprised if you see more of Little Dirk in the future if they decide to go down that path. But Kane, 1,000%, I want to see that guy come back. I don't want to see any of the Tejadas come back, you know, mind you, but Kane is one I will make an exception for because he did an outstanding job with that role. So, but we'll see what happens. But those are just my guesses as to what the future holds. As for what Gary said about Omari, I do think Omari is going to be involved with Origins, maybe as somebody that is narrating certain stuff. I don't think we're going to see him show up again on camera whatsoever. But I kind of feel like they can get him to narrate some stuff in relation to his character growing up. That they can 100% do. But again, we'll see what happens. But yeah, we'll see.
Oh yeah, those are great points. And I am happy that we got to see Lil Durk, you know, busting some guns in this in this episode. I want to give a shout out to Dimitri, who is always on Movie Box Spaces, if you ever listen to those. But he's the first person I heard say this. But a lot of people are saying that there could be a connection there because Lil Durk, you know, is from Chicago. So, you know, there could be some tie there of them alluding to the fact that the character also lives in Chicago, and maybe that's where Kane goes. You know, maybe he goes to stay with his cousin in Chicago, and then I don't need to tell you what else is in Chicago, right? So, so yeah, a lot of people are saying that, and that could be something that we see in Force. Who knows? You know, maybe Kane shows up. Maybe Kane and Tariq show up together. Who knows? But that is a connection a lot of people are drawing. So I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, great thoughts from both of you. And like I said, I want people in the comments to also answer the question too. Like, you know, what would you want from a new spin-off? What would you want to see? So definitely let us know in the comments. And yeah, at this point, I want to give you two the floor. Like, do you have anything else you want to discuss? Any final thoughts or anything? So, Dana, was there anything else from this finale that you think needs to be discussed? Or anything else?
Kind of stated that the whole Brayden situation. That would also be interesting to see, like Brayden and him, because I don't feel that Brayden and Tariq are done in terms of friendships. You know, friendships evolve and they grow, and they're, like I stated before, they're new with this friendship. So I would like to see, maybe Brayden stated that, you know, he wants to build something. And technically you can argue Tariq gave him something right now to build. He said we're not partners anymore, which means however you build it, you build it. I'm giving you this. I don't want to work with you no more. I kind of wish that they had a conversation ship about, you know, let's go to rehab a little bit. Let's clear up our noses. Let's clean up the sinuses. That would have been nice to see. But it would be interesting to know what happens in that front. I do feel that, you know, what was interesting with Kane and kind of why I kind of also want another show was, um, one of the things was all about Monet forced, yes, you can argue through death that he forced um, Kane to, you know, that Kane and Monet relationship is now forever severed. But what he does say is essentially like, you know, I should have just let go. So now I would like to see Kane letting go of certain, you know, letting go of one of the past, but allowing himself to be his own person. And I think, you know, him being on the run, it does force him to do that. Um, but I think that it's really interesting that no one mentioned as well when Noma was having a conversation with Anya before the whole Koalition, and she was explaining, you know, Anna was like, you know, I hate you. This has really been about you. You know, this is your drug business. And she said, oh my God, you killed my father. Essentially, you know, he got in the way, and she was disgusted and horrified. What also she said was that, and we know that it was a lie, because we had a conversation with the brother, with Noma's brother previously, stating, you know, the father brought her into the business and to learn. But she went and she stated to Anya that she was 10 years old when her father, Noma's father, died, and that, you know, that is how she learned about what happened to the business, was after the fact. And so it's interesting that Anya's continuously lying, not Anya, Noma's continuously lying to Anya about that. And I think that, again, if she would have probably been honest with her, yes, Anya would have been very upset still, but maybe it would have been a different kind of relationship where Anya could have lived. So I do think that she caused her daughter's own death also as well. Um, Again, I kind of felt really sad that Rashad never, well, not what's his name, Tate, our Tate, never really got that full closure. Or at least, wouldn't it be something if Rashad was there with Nico and was the one to put the cuffs on him? I think that would have been like way more
Yeah.
powerful than Nico putting the cuffs on him. So he was able to like put the cuffs on him, and like, you know how you put the head in the car and just bang his head on the car a little bit. That would have been really great to see. Um, but I do wish that there was more justice for those two characters. I don't know what, you know, we're learning. I don't know what his schedule was like, but it would have been nice to have seen him made an appearance during the finale to know what really happened with his brother. Because all we heard was, and we'll send it to Rashard. We just never, you know. So I'm sure it's because he's filming something. Um, so that would have been nice to see. Another thing that you know, it's really interesting that, you know, Effie backed away and was out of this entire game situation. But she chose. It's interesting how it's all about what you choose to do. She chose to come back in because of Kane. Because remember when they was having a conversation with Effie and Brayden, and it was like, you know, they were like saying, Effie, we need you back again. She says, I'll take my chances. I'm thinking about me now. And that's what I thought would be the turning point of her fleeing with her money and going to school. But instead, she went and gave it to Kane. And all he did was give her a little kiss on the forehead. I'll pay you back. Oh, you charity case. I hate that so much. I really, really do. Um, Another thing was, it was interesting that they turned Detective Carter into Alonzo from Training Day, where it was basically he gave that huge speech at the end. It
Yeah,
was like,
he
"King
said the
Kong got
same
nothing on
line.
me."
He
And
said
so,
some of the same lines, right?
basically, essentially, I'm sitting here like this is Training Day. I am you. I am the cops. So that was interesting and not very meh. But another thing that I did like about Noma's brother, kind of what I wish we could have gotten more to see, because he's a thinker, and Noma is all emotion, and I would have loved to have seen that dynamic between the two more, especially when it came to Mecca. Because it was like not only did killing Mecca kind of knock her chances for getting a U.S. citizenship, but I do feel that there was something there, which is why she wanted the engagement ring back. It was that emotion again. So it would have been really interesting to introduce the brother in a little bit earlier, because one of the things was like, we outgunned them 5-1, and he was like, yeah, we used to out now we out we used to outnumber them by 10-1, but because of you, all of our people are dead. So I would have loved seeing that strategic thinking go up against Tariq's strategic thinking and how that would have played out. But instead, they kind of became allies, which is really interesting because it's like, you had my sister killed. You know what I mean? Like, this whole situation is because now no one's dead. And he was like, it's business. So I really like that. And I would have loved to have seen that play out some more. Um, yeah, so that was like main things. It was really interesting that no one's dead now, but she was trying to. It was slightly said that Noma was trying to turn informant. Did anyone catch that? Because when it was at the end with the detectives, when Davis was like, "I want my license back," they said that Noma turned informant. She thought she could use the Tejadas as scapegoats, and that's what he was trying to say. Noma was really the main person of the investigation. Tariq had nothing to do with it. I feel like we missed that entire part where it was like Noma turned informant. Now I know that they, unless he was making that up so that it would seem like Tariq was clear of all of this, but she wasn't really an informant. They was just saying that to make this case to clear the Tejadas and to clear Tariq. Right, Gary?
Well, you're making a great point because that could go either way. It could be that just that they were just lying to clean everything up and put it on no more. But you could also make a case that maybe she was, turning into a snitch because, I mean, she showed up to the airport with the cops, and
That's what I
also
was saying. That's why I was
she
confused.
was working with Carter, who is a cop, and like so I mean, you could make the case maybe she was going to turn informant.
Yes. And then what I wanted to know is, I wish that we would have got more of, even though it was a lovely surprise, I would have loved to have known when Nico switched over. Because it wasn't like, hey, look, let's just see if this plan works through and see whether or not Carter is willing to throw you under the bus. Because it was Nico who gave the bullet to Tariq and Brayden. So it was, he got to the evidence first. So I would have loved to have known, when did the switch make, when he was like, I don't like Carter anymore. I'm gonna take my chances with Tariq over here.
Yeah, I think I think what might have happened there is like when Nico saw Carter in the evidence room and he saw like the evidence that he was going through, he probably like
Mm-hmm.
went there and took it for leverage, like just because I'm sure by now he's suspecting something with Carter, so like he probably just took it, just in case something comes up, and then obviously it came up, and we didn't see because it all happens off camera. We didn't see the moment where they told him, "Look, we need that. We need you to help us. We need you to be at this location at this time so you can." They didn't. I mean, obviously he knew where it was anyway because Drew went through him, but yeah,
Right.
like we didn't see the setup because it was a big surprise, I guess. So,
And
but
then
yeah,
it was really, yeah, I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, no, carry on.
No, here's kind of why I didn't think Noma was the one that called the police, was because remember the brother kept saying it's a setup, the airplane is a setup. So I'm wondering, because she was willing to go in there guns blazing either way. So was she actually listening to her brother at that moment? Because we still don't know who called the cops. Was it Carter? We don't know unless she actually listened to him. And then another thing was interesting was Carter's entire downfall was kind of him and his arrogance. Because Nico asked him very clearly, hey, do you want backup? And he said no. And I think if he had backup in this situation, he wouldn't have, that whole story, that whole line couldn't have worked at all.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
think.
he purposely said no to Nico because he didn't
Yeah,
want him to know the truth.
right.
But
So
yeah,
like
you're
yeah,
right.
so,
Yeah,
so like it was interesting. And then it's also interesting that, again, I'm slightly frustrated about the fact that they're literally going back to doing what they did again. The fight clubs and the course correct and the parties. Um, eh, so overall, it was okay. That's just, the big main thing was like who was on the phone call, and we don't know yet. We have theories, but overall, it was interesting. But another thing was part is Tasha. They said when Tasha when Tariq and Tasha was talking, they were saying that means you don't ever have to work again. And I think that would have been a really great jump off point to see that doesn't work very well. It's really nice to live the life of luxury and not having to work again, but at the same time, I see Tasha getting antsy, just sitting at home and doing boring things that could be very routine. Even with that horrible job she had, it was something to do. So I would have loved to have known, oh, she can live in that life of luxury, but she's dying inside. That would have been an interesting counterpoint that she could have made because she kind of just accepted things as it was in terms of with Tariq. But we'll see. We don't know who's going to be in the next spinoff. We don't know anything about it. So that would have been interesting to see her get antsy and then go back in the drug business. But that's kind of everything. Also, the part about Tommy working with Tariq, it's interesting because we did see Tommy evolve a little bit during the Force, where he wasn't, guns blazing like he used to be. Going back to like the Proctor scene, where he was literally guns blazing, and he's learned to kind of control that a little bit more. So it would be interesting dynamic to see him evolving, and then Tariq coming in being more of the strategic person. Is it because Tariq would be so strategic that Tommy would then have to feel like he has to go back with guns blazing, or can they both learn from each other in their strategy? So that would be interesting.
oh yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, oh yeah, I would have loved to have seen Tasha like quitting her job, like being real sassy and like quitting on her boss. Like that would have been cool to see. But I know there wasn't enough time for all that. But yeah, but yeah, Richard, any final thoughts?
Oh no, I think you and Dana raised a lot of good points of stuff that we didn't mention earlier. But I definitely did observe all of this stuff in the episode. But I just didn't, when it got to the point about whether or not Noma's informant, I didn't care because Noma and Monet are dead. So at that point, I'm like, the show was over. Let's just see what's next for the Power universe. But I agree with a lot of the points that were made. Yeah, I didn't have anything else to add. I think the show served its purpose. So let's see what comes next from the Power universe.
Oh yeah, and on that note, that's a great sentence to end on right there. So thank you, Richard. But yeah, so that is going to be it. This very special episode, the last recap of Power Book 2 Ghost ever. Of course, we will be back once Raising Canaan starts, my favorite show. So yeah, can't wait for that. And then, of course, we have Force season 3 in the future also. So yeah, we're going to be around for a while still. But yeah, that is it for Ghost. Please do leave your thoughts in the comments. Let us know what you thought of the finale, what you think will happen in the future. if there is another spin-off. Yeah, and we look forward to reading all the comments. We might pop up, again with some bonus stuff in the future. We've been discussing some like bonus stuff that we could do. Dana has some games for us to play, some power quiz stuff, and some fun games. So we might pop up with some other power content soon. So yeah, just subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and yeah, leave your comments and check out our Koalition Entertainment channel also if you want to see coverage on other shows and movies and films. And also we have the Koalition Gaming if you are a gamer, like me and Richard, with big gamers. And then also the coalition.com is where you can find absolutely anything from us. We post these shows on there. We post articles and editorials and reviews, interviews, all that stuff. So you can find everything cataloged on the coalition.com. And yeah, that is going to be it for this episode. And we'll see you sometime this winter because we don't have a date yet. All we know it's Raising Canaan this winter. So we'll see you then. Peace
Winter is coming.
out. Winter is coming. Yeah, winter is coming. Let's hope it's as bloody as Game of Thrones. That would be interesting. But yeah, take care, everyone.